crystal to the J to the crystal to the tune in to the Bedroom Talk Show. Crystal to the every Monday, and then you'll know. Crystal no guess every week. Talk about everything.
Hey, what's up, you guys? It's your girl, Crystal J, and I'm back with another good episode. Today, we're talking about moving past your trauma. And I know that is the topic of everything right now, moving past trauma, because some people got childhood traumas. Some people have traumas within marriages, relationships. Trauma can come from so many different type of things. But today I have a guest with me. Her name is Tamera. She's an author like myself, and I had to get another author on here. That's the first thing I had to do coming back. And thank you for everybody who's tuning in to the Bedroom Talk Show. I'm your host, Crystal J. And Tamera, tell us your story.
So, hello, everybody. And Crystal, thanks so much for having me. I am a 40-year veteran educator, and I worked with children with special needs. I also worked in a variety of um, positions, but one of the things is I taught children who had experienced trauma. I worked with children who had experienced trauma, who had gotten into trouble, children that had some mental health issues that needed services. So I've worked a variety of things. I also have written books that address trauma and really through social emotional learning and ensuring that social emotional learning is addressed in every book, because I'm a true believer that social emotional learning helps children and will help adults heal from aid in healing from their trauma. So let me also say that during this 2 years that we've been in COVID, and we still are in COVID, we have all gone through what we call collective trauma, because it's affected all of us, and it's affected each of us differently, but we've all been affected. And so how we respond to it, how we deal with it, and what we do to move past it is all an individual thing. So we want to make sure that we support our children and having those conversations as we help them to deal with trauma. So what is trauma? Trauma is our emotional response to a terrible event or disaster like COVID, or like things that go on in our lives every day. You know, grief can be very traumatic. You know, when we lose, I lost a friend to COVID. That was very traumatic. Um, Even though I knew people were dying from COVID, I had known other people to die from COVID, but when it hits your home, it's very different. And
I
so
agree.
it's how we respond to it. And so some people, you know, we have friends, we talk. Some people deal with it very differently, and some people have to seek out some professional help to help them deal with it. So just remember, it's that response. How do we deal with it? How do we respond? How do we um, deal with what the reality of it is? And the reality of it was people were dying every day from COVID. But when you have a friend that goes in the hospital and you talk to them before while they're there, and then, you know, 3 weeks later, they're dead. So,
Imagine going through that the same
yes.
day. Like my cousin, and you guys, she is awesome, you guys. I counseled on her last year because I had a cousin that died from COVID. She went into the hospital saying her chest hurt. And I talked to her. I said, I love her. And that was the last time I ever
Mhm.
heard from her again, because she died that same day. And I had to deal with trauma and moving past. I'm still grieving, but
Mhm.
I had to move past it. And moving past it was hard because when I think about it, I do get emotional. I don't think you can heal from your trauma immediately. I think some people want a quick fix to fixing trauma. And I don't think it's a such thing as a quick fix when it comes to
Mhm.
trauma. Sometimes we try to put on this brave face for the world when deep inside we're hurting, we're sad, and
Mhm.
we're really emotional. And I want to say, hey, TikTok, I see you guys are watching. Thank you guys for tuning in, TikTok. If you have any questions, let me know. But like I said, moving past trauma is the hardest thing to do. And one thing I did personally to move past my trauma was seek professional help and get
Mhm.
therapy.
Mhm. And I think that's important. And I think definitely when you're, no one should be ashamed to seek that professional assistance because we need it. And we need someone to help us if we are in a rut or if we can't seem to pull ourselves out of it. And when I say getting past trauma, that doesn't mean that you don't have days that you're sad. It doesn't mean that you don't have a memory that you just may get emotional about. And it doesn't mean that uh, you can't, getting past it means that I can function every day. I can do the things that I need to do. Getting past it means I may still have some hurt, but I have the strategies and techniques to deal with that hurt. I can journal. I can use mindfulness. I can use yoga. I can use meditation. I can use a calming app, or I have a couple apps that I use to talk about emotions and just gauge my feelings. Um, every day. So there are different ways to get past trauma, but I want people to know that it doesn't mean that, oh, now I'm just so happy all the time and I don't have those feelings, because certainly we do have those feelings and emotions. But it's how do I deal with it? How do I function daily? And how do I go on living and having positive thoughts and feelings?
So my question to you is, what made you create a book about trauma? And I know you write for children's. So do you have
Mhm.
a children book about trauma as well that can help kids learn what trauma is and how to move past trauma?
Well, I don't have a book that definitely says this is trauma and we're moving past trauma. What I did in my book, Cassie's Big Change, um, how COVID-19 changed the way we learn, I talked about some of the ways that Cassie was feeling and her peers were feeling as they were going through learning from one day being in school saying, hey, we have this uh, disease, we have this virus going on, and we don't know what it is. Because at the beginning of the virus, we didn't know it was called COVID. We didn't have a name for it. We just knew it was a virus. I remember my own mother being in the hospital right at the beginning, and them saying, don't go down that hallway because people down that hallway have that virus. So we didn't have a name for it. So in the book, Cassie and her friends are dealing with that, the virus, and being in school one day, the uncertainty, and we still have some uncertain times that we're dealing with right now, but the uncertainty of COVID, of this virus, going home thinking, oh, I'm going to be back in school in a couple of weeks, and then being out for some children over 2 years, and for some children still have not gone back into the actual school building in some countries. So we're dealing with their emotions, their feelings, their uncertainty, their questions, not knowing what to do, how to feel, not knowing who to go to. And we have parents and teachers working with these children to help them deal with this uncertainty. So this is what Cassie's Big Change, how COVID-19 changed the way we learn, is about. So it doesn't, there's nowhere in the book you're going to find the words trauma, but through the story, these children did go through trauma.
So my question for you are, what are some signs that that my child or somebody else's child may be experiencing trauma, or a response, a reaction? Like,
It could
what is that?
it could be they're pulling away from friends.
Uh-huh.
It could be that they're feeling sad. It definitely could be that they're change in behavior, maybe not, maybe they like to do certain things, but now they don't want to do it. Being in bed, not wanting to get up, not wanting to have conversation if they're very, if they like playing video games and they don't want to, or they're over involved in some of the things that, they go overboard. So it could be many kids can have many different reactions. Some children, it could be bedwetting and they're, been potty trained for years and years, but they have that emotional response. It could be a change in their academics, a change in just the way they respond to you.
So each child is different, which
Every
is
child is different.
that
You
makes
can't
sense.
say it's going to
Everybody's
be like
different.
this for every child because
Right.
it's not. And every child will respond differently. But certainly, we have children that respond differently that have been victims of sexual abuse, of
See,
other
that's the
abuse.
topic right there that I
So
am saving because the sexual abuse is and it's unfortunate that it's a common thing and it happens so close to home that a lot of people don't realize how often that kids
yes,
are are being sex objects, and that conversation in itself is trauma. That woo, girl.
yeah,
That's a lot in itself. But my next question for you was, when you start as a parent, when you start seeing
mhm,
these signs of, oh, my child is doing this more, how do you go about having that conversation with your kid? And that's the first question. I have another question when you answer
mhm.
that one.
Okay. So, one of the ways, books are a wonderful way to break into a conversation with your child or a discussion if you don't feel comfortable. After you've tried to have a conversation, hey, how are you doing? I see you some changes. Do you want to talk about it? And they say no. Then maybe we can read a book. And then through the book, we can take them out of the picture and use the character, and that character, then use that character as an example of, well, how do you think Cassie's feeling? How do you think her friends are feeling? Well, what do you think? How might you feel if this happened to you? And so you can use the character in the book to really address and help to have that conversation. Now, let me say that it may not be the first conversation. You may not get to it. You may have to have many conversations. And if you still feel like, and you see your child having more and more of behavior that is not common for them, then you have counselors at schools, you have other people, psychologists, social workers um, at your schools or in your community, that if you don't see any changes, then I would solicit their help. Maybe your child has another trusted adult that they may feel more comfortable talking to. As parents, we always want our kids to really communicate with us, but sometimes because we're so emotionally involved with the situation or with them, because we love them and we just want them to hurry up and get it out, that we're not always the best people, and they may not feel comfortable sharing with us.
I
So
agree
we
with
know
that.
that there are other people out there that certainly, an aunt, an uncle, or somebody that they trust, that you trust also, that will help share that information so that you know what strategies and techniques to use, but also whether or not you need to seek professional help.
I agree with that. Sometimes they don't feel comfortable, and sometimes us as parents, we're sometimes we don't have patience. Sometimes we want the answer immediately, like, "What? Why you doing this? Why are you crying? Why did you hit your brother? Why did you bully them? Why did you do this?" And we want the answer so quick. Sometimes we don't
Right.
realize we're still creating this little human. We're still forming them to be the best adult they can be when they become our age. When they're our age, we I see a lot of posts on social media saying, I don't want my kids to grow up with trauma. But my question to parents is, you don't want your kids to grow up with trauma, but have you addressed your traumas? Have you addressed
Right.
your childhood traumas and try to heal just to start to heal. I'm not saying you have to be fully healed to be a parent, but started to heal some of your traumas to be the best person you can be, the best mom, the best dad. Maybe you didn't
Right.
grow up in a loving home. Maybe you didn't get hugs like that.
Right.
Whatever your trauma is, have you took the time to fully address that trauma? Because I feel like we use the word trauma so much in social media today that we
Mhm.
haven't took the time to really understand the
Mhm.
word trauma. Like, she broke down what is trauma, but the question
Mhm.
is, what is trauma to you? When you think of the word trauma, what is your first thought? What are you envisioning when you think of trauma?
Mhm.
When I think of trauma, I think of bad experiences that has stuck
Mhm.
with me and molded me to be the person I am today. Instead of letting that be a lesson and me growing from it, is some traumas in my life that I am trying to address today as an adult. Like,
Mhm.
I was bullied really bad as a kid. Um, Middle school, I was bullied so bad I tried to commit suicide twice. Now, if
Mhm.
my mom is watching this, I am so sorry. You didn't know this, but I tried to take my life twice.
Mhm.
Um, it wasn't successful because I'm here.
Mhm.
But one way that I faced that trauma was
Mhm.
I confronted all of my bullies. I was triggered 2019. Was it 2019 or 2020? I don't remember.
Mhm.
They created a Facebook group for all the people that was in middle school, my class. I was so triggered. Like, why y'all got me in this group when you guys really bullied me?
Mhm.
I had a speech problem, you guys. I was really skinny. I grew up in a Christian family. I wore long skirts. I didn't wear pants. It was a lot of things, and I was bullied really bad. And just remember writing my letter to my bullies, and that was one trauma that I addressed. My other traumas I addressed, I'm not going to talk about, but you
Mhm.
guys, to be the best parent and person we can be, we have to start the process of addressing our traumas. And sometimes it's okay to get therapy. I know in the Black community,
Mhm.
it's shamed, and but now they're trying to make it okay because mental health is really a thing. Mental health been a thing.
Yeah.
It just wasn't cool. That's the conversation. Mental health been a thing. We just didn't make it cool back then because
Mhm.
the way, like the word retarded, like when we think about special needs, it's so many things that was said back then
Mhm.
that are no longer accepted. That's because we are the change. This generation, my generation, we
Mhm.
are the change of changing our mindset. I say this every week on the Background Talk Show about changing your mindset. Your mindset is your most powerful tool you will ever
Mhm.
have. You can be a millionaire and have a fucked up mindset. Like, I'm telling you, it's all about your mindset. Have you ever met somebody who had money, but their mindset was so poor? They was
Mhm.
really a poor individual. And you can meet somebody like me who don't have all the money, but my mindset is far from poor.
Mhm.
I hope somebody caught that word because I'm not trying to get spiritual and preach with you guys. I'll preach on you guys. Like, that came from God. Some people have poor mindset
Mhm.
and they're not ready to address their traumas, but you're raising a child and creating more trauma within that child. And
Right.
it's a generational thing. And it's crazy
Mhm.
part is next week we're talking about generational curses and
Mhm. Yeah.
generational trauma. That's next week episode. And but I'm telling you today, that's why we still have generational curses because of
Mhm.
trauma from your mom, your dad, and they never addressed it. And now you got it. Now you
Mhm.
yelling at your kid, whooping your kid. Now you say, I ain't gonna do that. And you doing it now.
Mhm.
Just
Yeah,
be
and I think it's one thing is that it's the way we used to look at things, and then the lack of knowledge, because we believed in some old myths, some old things that don't do this, don't do that, oh, don't take your child to this, oh, just and I'm going to say something that probably people are not going to like, but oh, just take it to the altar. I have no problem taking it to the altar, but God has put people in our lives and he has equipped us uh, to help others. So there's nothing wrong with going to a therapist. There's nothing wrong with going to um, that psychologist or that social
nope.
worker. it's not all about every minister or every preacher or every teacher does not have all the skills to do everything. And that's why there are specialists in certain fields to help us to deal with certain problems. And so I encourage parents all over, if your child needs a therapist, or if your child, there are things now virtually, but, and I'm not advertising for any of them. I don't know all of them, but there are definitely some tools virtually that now you can access. So you don't even have to leave home. You don't have to go into an office. I do think for children that contact is important with the therapist, and for them to see them, because you see a child very differently virtually than you do face to face. So I personally think that's really important. But regardless, get the child the help they need. And I like what you said, is that parent moving past their trauma. Remember, healing is a journey. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in 4 or 5 years for some. It is a journey. So whatever your journey looks like, and however you deal with that journey, how do you handle it? What do you do when you see that trigger, or don't put yourself in a situation where you're re-triggered or you're re-experiencing the trauma. Take yourself out of that situation. And I think when we have to use those techniques, those strategies that we've been taught, and if we haven't been taught, there are many books, there are journals. I wrote a journal to help kids to deal with their emotions, exploring them so that they can get it out. They can think about it. They can know who to go to. They can know, how am I feeling, and be conscious about their feeling. I said to a person something about mental health, and they said, well, we don't want to use that word mental health. I said, why not? I think about my mental
I
health
don't get that. Why
every
not
day,
use it?
every
Why?
day. And every day I make decisions on what I'm going to do based on sometimes my mental health. Maybe sometimes it's not a good day for me to go do certain things. Some days it may not be a good day for me to have a conversation on the phone. We have to think about that, and we have to really be in tune with ourselves. And so
Mhm.
that takes work. And so we have to put in the work so that we can help our children when they need us. And I think that's really important.
I don't understand why people don't like using the word mental health. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
It's
And
not, but it's a stigma,
it is a
and
stigma,
we're
but it's,
and
it's
we're
within the
seeing it,
black community though.
but
That's the issue.
it is. I think it's more in the Black community. I think it's in other communities
But it's
also,
more
but
in our
I think it's
community.
more in the Black and Brown communities.
That
I'm
is
going to
correct.
say it. I'm going to say it like that. And I think it's because of lack of knowledge, and it's just because of what we've learned, what we've not felt comfortable with. And like you said, I think now we're seeing more people, and I think we're seeing, because people are seeing celebrities, they think, oh, now it's okay. But it's been okay.
It's been okay.
It's been
It's
okay.
been
Oh,
okay.
for a long time.
But
But
it's unfortunate that people
they do.
idolize celebrities, not knowing what they go through behind them closed doors. Like idolizing this person. You don't know what they're going through. They're just famous for what they're
Right.
doing. But when it comes to mental health, what I am so proud of in this moment is my generation making sure we talk about it. I
Yeah.
have a friend, Pilar. She has a mental health app. I will drop it in the comments when I get
Mhm.
offline, you guys. And on TikTok, I would make a video for you guys. She created an app to target mental health awareness, mental
Mhm.
health. And she battles with depression, but she talks about it. She's not silent about it. Like,
Right.
I feel like in my mom generation and my grandma generation,
Mhm.
it was a don't tell nobody. That's what it was. But this
Right.
generation is not like that.
Well,
Even when it comes to the marriages, um, how that I know divorce rate is very high,
mhm.
but I feel like my generation and the younger generation are not tolerating so much things
Mhm.
that is look like our rate is high when we're really just putting our mental health first now more than
Mhm.
ever than just caring about social media.
Right. I think it's really the language. When I think about, my mother's generation and, some places in my own generation, um, that people didn't know the right words. So everybody
I
who
love that.
maybe had a problem, that they were crazy. And I hate when people use that word because that's not true. Because they had some problems dealing with things, because they weren't as astute in their language, because they didn't have the knowledge to know where to go, or people around them to give them that support. So I think now it is definitely more acceptable,
Yes,
but we
it is.
still have people that still use that in the older generations because they don't really understand, and so they base their um, knowledge, and they base their what they talk about based on their experiences.
You know
And
what's crazy? You use the word crazy. When I was younger, I had a neighbor, and before I say this, I apologize already to spiritually. Like, I don't know her. She was my neighbor. I thought she was crazy. She used to be outside cussing, talking to herself.
mhm,
You know why I thought she was crazy? Because I was very ignorant to the
mhm,
word mental health. And I was very ignorant to knowing she was bipolar. I didn't know what that
right.
truly meant. I thought bipolar meant crazy. As I got older, I learned what it truly meant. But
Mhm,
then I don't know if you was in Atlanta during this time, the soldier boy up and the girl that
mhm,
cranked and did it on the train and went viral. Who knew that she really had mental health issues and everybody making fun of her, she went viral, all of that. But but that was the time we could start having the conversation
mhm,
about mental health awareness, but we didn't do that because a lot of people was ignorant to what mental health looked like. Now when I'm out and about and I see somebody talking to themselves and they're yelling, I know they're probably did not have their medicine day. They're having an
mhm,
episode. I'm not gonna call the cops. I'm gonna let them have their
mhm.
episode in peace unless they are doing things that are harming themselves.
Themselves, right,
But a
or
lot of
others.
people
Yeah.
to this day, I still see people, oh, they crazy. And I always, if I'm out and about and I see that, no, baby, they're not crazy. That's
Mhm,
mental health, baby. I want you to understand the difference between what
right.
you think is crazy and what is mental health. I want to make sure I said that. Um, but you guys, we're about to go to a commercial break. It's really not a commercial break, you guys. This is a moment of silence for the 10 people who was just murdered in Buffalo, New York. I'm not going to say gunned down. I'm going to say murdered because it was premeditated murder. And I want to pay my respects to
Mhm,
these strangers because that could have been my grandma. That could have been my auntie. That could have been my loved one. Me being a black woman, it is heartbreaking. And I'm gonna say the word traumatic because this is very
mhm,
traumatic, and I don't even know them indirectly. It's traumatic because it could have happened in Atlanta, it could have happened in New York. I mean, it did happen in New York. It could happen in LA. It could
mhm.
happen anywhere in the world because somebody is filled with so much hate for the color of my skin, but not the contents of my character. So I'm gonna go to break. Yeah, be right back.
Mhm.
I hope you guys enjoyed my moment of silence. Not really pretty much enjoyed, just paid your respects and silence to them.
Mhm.
I get really emotional when it comes to Black Lives Matter, anything of this sort. So you may see me cry at this point because I'm gonna be honest, I am very mad. I'm very hurt that he drove hundreds and hundreds of miles to carry this attack, this domestic attack out on people who is just going grocery shopping. It was one lady who go grocery shopping every Saturday, and she feeds families and feed people
Mhm.
every Saturday. That's what she did. And to think that this black queen was shot doing the work that God has probably directed her to do is sick. It's
You know,
heartbreaking.
when we talk about trauma,
Hmm.
remember it doesn't necessarily have to happen directly to us. We can experience just looking at that or knowing that that happened. Trauma can be what we've seen other people in situations. We can have some emotional response to that. So it's
Hmm.
not necessarily, I want people to know, it's not necessarily that it always has to happen to us. As a child, when children deal with childhood trauma, it could be something that they see happen to their sibling or to their friend, or like these people, someone saw them being gunned down, being shot. So that was a traumatic experience for them. And as we watch videos and see that, we may also experience some emotional response to that. So remember, it's not always what happens directly to us, it's something that we can also experience indirectly.
I agree because like I said before I started the video, I didn't know them, and as I was making this video, you guys, and getting their names, it was very hard.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and I know it's other shootings going on in the world right now. I picked this one in particular because this one stood out to me. And I am here saying today that Black Lives Matter and we will always matter and we've been mattering. It's just unfortunate that some people view us as less than actual human beings. So it was crazy that today this episode was about trauma because for me this is very traumatic, like this traumatic. Even Michael Brown, all of the young black men and black women who died just because they're black. I have always like that has always got me and triggered me.
Mm-hmm.
Because we are more than just a hashtag. We are so much more than that. We are more than a 30-second video that I made. There are
Mm-hmm.
more than just that. They was human beings that was killed because of the color of their skin.
Mm-hmm.
And as we talk about moving past trauma, I don't know how we're gonna move past this. I hope as a community we move past it and we have these tough conversations
Mm-hmm.
um to start moving towards the healing. I know for a fact I talked to one of my 5 year olds about this topic today, um, trauma, and I talked to him about being a black boy and him
Mm-hmm.
when he gets older, he's gonna be a black man.
Mm-hmm.
And having that conversation is the hardest thing. But I feel like that's the first way we can work towards trauma is first having that conversation and
Mm-hmm.
addressing it.
Yeah, we definitely have to address it. And we have to address how it affects us, how it affects our community. Um, and like you said, having those conversations and discussions. But we also have to do more than that. We also have to get involved in bringing that message to our children, making sure that message is not of hate, but of love. And even though we don't want to initiate the hate that was put on us or the negativity, but doing it in a positive way. And so remember, trauma healing is a process, and it's not going to happen right away
Mm-mm.
because we are continually, for some people, continually seeing and being re triggered a lot of the time.
We had that
And
conversation earlier about being
right.
trigger all the time.
And one of the things for children is during, when children were home from school, one of my biggest concerns was the children who were being abused and not reported, because school for them was a safe haven. Excuse me, or is a safe haven. And so they were at least getting a break from some of that. But if you're living in a home where you're being abused, whether it's sexually, physically, mentally, emotionally, um, and those children are being re-traumatized every time. So helping them to move past it, what does it look like? Well, it looks different for each child. So as a teacher, as a trauma practitioner, as a mother, as an auntie, we have to help our family in love, our community in love. We don't want to,
The key word was love.
yeah, we don't want to initiate any more hate, because that's not the answer. It's the love, it's sharing the right message. It's not just sharing a message, but sharing the right message of how we as a community heal, and then how we continue to help the next generation, because that's
I agree with
important.
that. I agree with that because when I had that conversation today with the kid, with one of the kids, I did it from a place of concern. I did it from a place of nothing but love. Um, it's already too much hate in the world. It's
Mhm.
too much hate in the world already. So to have a conversation with a kid about trauma and being black in itself, that's a heavy conversation to
Mhm.
have and not be emotional. And I feel like I did a great job having that conversation today because I was so calm. And as pro black as I am, I wanted to go. I in my head, I wanted to say so much, but
Mhm.
I did so little because I needed him to understand the importance of being a black king and who he's going to become in this world. Because when he's this age, I want him to know how powerful he is. And just having that conversation from an angle of love and I hate, even though
Mhm.
I'm very angry, I'm experiencing so many emotions in general. But I agree with you. We have to come at it from an angle of love and talk when we talk to our kids about trauma, or if we choose to talk to them about the color of their skin or the hate that goes on in the world because the color of their skin, not just black people, all races.
Mhm.
It's up to us as parents to have those tough conversations and set the foundation for our kids. We are the people setting the foundation for our kids. When they go into the world, they gonna be like, "Who was your mama?" They're not gonna say, "Oh, you did that." No, we are setting the foundation for our kids for who they're gonna become tomorrow. They are our future. We're
Right.
gonna perish.
Right. And we want to make sure that when we're having those conversations with our children, that we're having them that it is developmentally appropriate. What you can say to a 10-year-old is not the same that you say to a 5-year-old or 12-year-old or 16-year-old. So
Mm-mm.
making sure that we're having those developmentally appropriate conversations, and not expecting a child to um, take in or understand things that they can't, because developmentally they're not ready for that. So it's going to make sure that we're having conversations over and over, not just preaching to them, but definitely having those developmentally appropriate conversations. And if you don't know what that is, there are many books and um, information out there that you can hone and that you can read to help.
I agree with that. Like, it's certain things that because he's 5, I know I can't say. Like, I
Mhm.
have to word this the best way I can for a 5-year-old to make him understand it. Then also understand he's 5. So he may not understand this
Right,
conversation.
right.
And he may come back in his head when he's 16, but oh mom, I remember that conversation. You know? So I agree with you. You have to go based on that child age. on how you can address certain things, how you can talk about certain things. And that's why I'm very big on therapy. And you guys, Atlanta and a lot of other places, I think called therapy for blacks, I think it's called.
Mhm.
They have a lot of good therapists on there who you can hire to talk about trauma, and even you even have family therapists that can do
Mhm.
it as a family for you all can heal together, because the key word is healing. I've been working on my healing for 2 years. I've been in therapy for 2 years. I'm currently not in therapy. If you follow my story, you know that my former therapist did some very unprofessional things. Um, but before February, I was in therapy for almost 2 years of healing and working on my traumas. And healing is not an end game. Like, I'm taking my time. I'm not rushing it. Sometimes I BS my healing. Some days I don't. I'm just gonna be honest. Some days I'm like, you know what? I ain't doing that homework. I don't need it.
Mhm.
Then when I think about some of the homework my former therapist did give me, I'm like, oh, that was actually very beneficial to me. And I go back and do it because I need to work on myself to be the best Crystal I can be. I can't be nobody other than Crystal. I can't be Cardi B. I can't be Kim Kardashian.
Mhm.
I can only be Crystal Jordan. And as you guys know me on here and TikTok and everywhere, Crystal J. I can only be that person. And as I continue to work on my healing and to continue to work towards healing from my traumas, I want to say it's light at the end of the tunnel. You guys, like, I feel like weight is lifting off my shoulder as I shed some things, as I cry. It's okay to cry, because when I'm crying, I know I'm shedding. My body is shedding that weight off of me, not physical weight. I'm talking about spiritual weight. I know somebody probably not understood what I said. I'm shedding spiritual
Mhm.
weight off of me that God is saying it's time to let go. Sometimes when we're crying, we hold it in, and it took me a long time to just start crying in front of people. Sometimes that's God's sign of telling you to let it go. Did you know that? Sometimes God is saying, just let it go. Just let it
Mhm.
go. It's okay. Let it out. In this moment, you need to let it out now. Don't wait till you get home. Let it out now. I used to be the person that could cry in the bathroom by myself in the shower. Um, when I went through one of my breakups, I used to cry in the shower all the time. When I used to get in the bathroom, I used to cry. I never really, I still don't cry as in front of people like that. I'm still currently working on that. That's something I can't share, but I'm getting better. Like, I almost cried on air with you guys just now after I came back from watching that
Mhm.
the video I created, but I caught myself. But I guess, like I just told you, that's something I'm working on. It can be the smallest thing you're working on.
Mhm.
Everybody's trauma is different. I wanted to make sure I leave my viewers, my roommates with that, because trauma is a heavy topic. And I'm so happy I was able to tackle that important topic with Arthur, Tamara. And you guys don't forget to check out her book. Can you tell us where we can get your book?
Sure. You can get my books at cassiesbigchange.com /shop. And for all your viewers tonight, if you definitely want to offer to you and the audio version of this book. And what you need to do is go to cassiesbigchange.com, fill out the contact sheet. Make sure you put your email address in there. When you put your email address in there, within 24 hours, I will email you. And this is only for the next 2 days. I will email you a copy of the audio version of Cassie's Big Change, How COVID-19 Changed the Way We Learn. You won't get it anywhere else because it's not anywhere else. But just because you were here, you listened, and hopefully you learned something about trauma. Also, you can. I have a book, Cassie's Big Change, Going from the Living Room to the Classroom. Of course, you can get this also at cassiesbigchange.com. Cassie's Big Change Coloring and Activity Book, And for those graduating, I'm the co-author of Congratulations Graduate. You have arrived at the beach. And this is really a great book. You can get this book on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and many other um, digital platforms. But you can definitely, this is a book that talks to young people as they transition to the next phase of their life and some of the things they need to be thinking about that maybe you as a parent have already said to them, but they just may need to be reminded. And this is a book that's not just a one, I'm going to read it and I'm one and done. This is certainly a book that can be used time and time again. And I wrote this with a dear friend, Dr. Sharon Waddle, who is a psychologist. So there are many books that we can use to share stories with children. But please, I also have a YouTube channel, Education for All Now, or definitely I'm on Facebook at Education for All Now. I have a Facebook group, Support for Children in Trauma, Instagram, Education for All Now. I also publish books, and you can Garwell Publishing on Facebook and Garpub 2021 on Instagram. I'm also on LinkedIn at Tamera Foley and Twitter at Tamera Foley. So I'm out there. Please, 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 if you want that free audiobook, you can only get it by filling out the contact page on cassiesbigchange.com, putting in your email address, and please put Bedroom Talk with Crystal J, so I know who you are. Again, put in there Bedroom Talk with Crystal J, so I know who you are. And thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Crystal, for having this discussion today, because I think it's relevant, it's important, and it's something that our community needs.
Thank you so much. I try my hardest to have great conversations, and some conversations are harder than others. Um, but I feel like this one in particular was needed. Because normally I talk about business stuff and everything else, but trauma is something that we need to talk about. And I'm so happy that you came on my talk show, the Baron Talk Show, and I'm so happy that you gave me grace when I was currently dealing with the death of my cousin. So I am forever thankful for you and any other guests I counsel on to take care of my mental health. It really makes my day to know that people knew I was not being unprofessional. I just wasn't mentally here to interview anybody. And I just want to say thank you publicly once again. And you guys, TikTok, you guys have been like watching. Y'all gave me 100+ viewers. I am so proud of y'all. This is my first time really going live on TikTok as I did the Bedroom Talk Show. But because I see that my TikTokers are loving this content, I'm going to continue to go live on Mondays at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on TikTok. And y'all gonna get to see to watch the Bedroom Talk Show with me as I go live. So starting today and every Monday while I'm in season, you guys get to watch. But I'm your host, Crystal J, and I'm so happy you guys like today's episode. If you have anything you want to buy from her, please check her out. It's kathybigchange.com. Once again, it's kathybigchange.com. And I'm your host, Crystal J. And thank you guys for tuning in with me and watching me. Thank you to all my new roommates on TikTok. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Crystal to the